preparing. We're live streaming. Let's see.
What's happening?
I think it's happening.
Setting
up your meeting. Directing to live page. Oh, look! There we are!
Can't see it. Can only you see it? Are we there?
Only I can. Maybe I could share screen. Well, all you do is like see your face. All right. Hi, friends. Hello. Original Sin and I, although it's on delay, so like I don't think that I can look at it because I think it's gonna like freak me out.
Oh, okay.
And it like, it's like on delay and it's got the captions below it. So the captions are behind on what I'm saying and it freaks me out. So I'm gonna just go ahead and I'll scroll up so that way we can. Yeah, it's for the best. Let's see. We'll go like that. Hi everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Comment in the chat box where you are, who you are. Say, hey, what's up? We are about to get this party started. Original Sin and I. We are recording a podcast episode. So why don't I do a little podcast intro?
Do it.
So you guys are getting the preview. You guys are getting the podcast episode before the podcast episode is released. And that's the cool part about being in the Crash Course community. You get all the good stuff early. All right, so let's do this thing. What's up, my friends? Chrissy Krash here with Original Sin. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissy Krash podcast. We are so excited to be with you today. We are answering all of your burning questions. And this is something that Sin and I would like to start doing on a regular basis. So you can expect to see these from us probably once a month. Because it's one thing, for us to teach what we think you want to know, but it's helpful if we just know what you want to know and then we teach it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's way easier than being psychic.
Right?
So I am here with the infamous Original Sin of the Red Stick Roller Derby. No, Sin, I am allowed to say infamous now because whenever I get on Crash Course, like pre-interviews, like when we're doing a pre-interview with a client and I'll mention you and then I'll be like, yeah, Original Sin of Red Stick Roller, they'll be like, oh my God, no way. Like it happens all the time. They're like, I'm going to get to be like coached by her. I'm like, yeah, you are. You are.
So snap, here I am. And for all of my teammates and league mates who are in our community that are watching this right now.
Y'all.
Yay, we're infamous.
Y'all are famous. Y'all are famous. It's really cool to see what you guys are doing. It's very exciting. I'm very excited to watch the end of this season with all of you guys. So we are going to get into this. So we had a bunch of you reach out with questions. We are going to do our very best to get through all of them. So should we just start it off?
Yeah, let's dive right in.
Let's do it. So our first question came from Lauren. Lauren says, what are some ways to make Derby more accessible to new skaters and help with retention of skaters through new skater courses and beyond? Let's start with that one. Sin, I feel like
Can I take it?
You just taught your knees. You did.
Yeah, we had our first session of our most recent Derby 101 program, and it was fantastic. So for this one, when it comes to making it more accessible to new skaters, this is going to be a little bit squishier. It's not as technical because in theory, develop your training plan for your program. Have a program for new skaters. Have a structure that they can rely on, that they don't have to worry about too much. They know when their 101 or fresh meet practices are going to be. They know who to talk to. So there's a lot of transparency and communication and them knowing how to get in touch with who they need to get in touch with. That's very important. That's going to really help you with retention when skaters aren't confused right out of the gate. Okay. So number 2, make sure they have their own little community, whether it's WhatsApp, a Facebook group, GroupMe, Telegram. Connect your new skaters immediately right after they've signed up for the program. Get them talking to you, get them talking to whoever their trainers are going to be, get them talking to each other. Accessibility means approachability. The more approachable your veteran skaters are, the more connected your newer skaters are going to feel right off the bat. That also means hanging out with them outside of practice, being friends with them, connecting with them where they are in their lives. Connectability and relatability means that they're going to want to stick around because they feel seen, they feel heard. You are getting to know them on a sincere, authentic, and personal basis, not just as a trainer to a skater or as a skater to a skater or as, a veteran to a newbie. Yeah. Got anything on that, Chrissy?
Yeah, no, that was great. No, I totally agree. And I think that, there's a really great book for all of the trainers out there. There's an amazing book called Tribal Leadership, which is about really creating community, creating values as a community. And part of that, they talk about the triad. And what it is, the triad is you want someone to be connected, not just to you as the trainer, but to each other. Because when we create these triads where you have person, not just single line like person to person, but when you have person to person to person, this person, it becomes stickier. The person wants to stay around longer. This is actually one of the reasons why, like Crash Course, for example, is a group program and not a one-on-one program, because we find that our clients get better results because they're not just working with me, they're not just working with Sin, but they're actually a part of an entire community. So the more that you can create that community feel within your league versus skaters just feeling like they're showing up to skate and then go home, like you want them to really be building those relationships for sure. And then I
Yeah.
think still settling my thing so I can read all the things. There we go. Perfect. And then I would say just with skater courses, having something that has a start and a finish is really, really helpful. So whether it's, let's call it like I don't know, like a 3-month program or something that they go through, giving people a place to start and then a graduation point is really, really helpful for retention. They don't have to necessarily, maybe it's not that they all start at the same time, but that is helpful for you guys. And also for promotion and retention of skaters, which I think someone asked about later. Let's see. Next question. Additionally, how do you best combat fear on the track when introducing new skills? I would say the biggest piece for me when I'm working with skaters is really like celebrating when they screw it up. Like if someone falls, being like, hey, yeah, right? Because it's like with the same thing with like a child, because so many times the thing that's holding people back from trying the new skill on the track is that everyone's watching and they feel like they're going to be embarrassed if they fall. And so if you can make that something that's celebrating the wipeouts. I mean, you guys, my name is Chrissy Crash, not because I crashed into things. It's because I just ate shit all the time. Literally. But just celebrating that, helping people just kind of loosen up a little bit so that the fear goes away when people are having fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so much. And again, having just come out of our first session for 101, this is so fresh to me again, is not just celebrating the mess ups and the falling, but pointing out other things to celebrate, because with these skaters, and with not even just new skaters, but skaters with new skills, introducing anything new, it can be tough for us to see what's worth celebrating. And so it's up to the trainer and it's up to the veteran to point out that everything is worth celebrating. Did you just do a stationary crossover? Did you just lift your foot for 30 seconds? You might not think it's a big deal because you're seeing how much better everybody is, or how slow you might think you are, but like, that is a win. And here I am externally pointing out to you that it is a win you should be celebrating, and that I'm celebrating it for you so that you can celebrate it with me.
Yep.
And it's extremely validating for them to realize that that is worth celebrating at all.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. These next two, I think, kind of go together. So these are still from Lauren. Thank you, Lauren, for all your questions. Yeah. We're going to do this podcast just for Lauren.
Just for Lauren. Sorry, guys.
We'll let you know
next time.
everyone else get off the Facebook Live. No one listened. Just for Lauren. So she asks, how do you best support your teammates who have sustained an injury, and how do you return to training after witnessing an injury during practice? I will say for the first one, the number one thing you should do is send them to our most recent podcast episode about making what was it? It was like making injury as a sport.
Yeah, the sport of injury as an athlete.
The sport of injury as an athlete. Send them that immediately. This is something we work on a lot with our clients because we play roller derby, and so if someone comes and joins our 12-week program or our 1-year program and they get injured, like that happens, and so we have to shift with them of what does training look like, what are you training for, now you're training to get healthy. Do you want to take the next one, Sin? The injury?
Witnessing an injury. Look, that's scary. Just seeing that it has happened makes it real in your brain that it could happen to you. So I think understanding that it didn't happen to you, and just maybe even saying that out loud. Maybe getting in your car and repeating it to yourself, going to look at yourself in the mirror and going, that didn't happen to me, and it's okay, is
Mhm.
one of those things, right? We really have to train our brains to combat the thought pattern that's happening there, right? And
Ooh,
oh, go ahead.
I have a thing on this. So, okay, when I first moved to Costa Rica, I was bicycling down. We had gone to go to this place. We were bicycling down this hill. On the way down this hill, it was dark. It was night. It was after the sunset. One of the girls I was with got on the bike and rode it down this hill, and it was super steep. And I was like, I'm not riding down this hill. It looks super sketchy. She lost control of her bike. She flew off into the ravine, fell 30 feet down. We were like, holy shit. So I'm like running down this hill. We find this girl. She is literally in a ravine, eyes rolled back in her head, convulsing. It was just blood everywhere. It was so traumatizing. I'm like literally 4 days in a new country, calling 911 in Spanish, trying to explain where I am. I don't know. It was insanely traumatizing. And so I reached out to one of my good friends, Adam, who, if you scroll way back in the list of roller derby podcasts, there's a really great podcast episode with Adam Christopher. He coached me through how to deal with the trauma of witnessing this really horrific event. And so he had me do a couple of things that really helped me. One is because your brain wants to replay it over and over again. And so what you do is, as you're letting your brain's replaying it over and over again, you picture it getting smaller and further away. So you picture it in black and white. You picture it like getting smaller and like further away. So you're like literally like removing yourself from the situation. And another one that was really weird, but it actually really helps, is because, I watched this girl like going down this hill, flipping off, like it was crazy. But he was like, when you play it over and over and again in your mind, play it with like funny music, like it sounds really weird and like horrific, but it removes you from it. And so if you have seen like someone's ankle break and bone sticking out, it's important that you're not replaying those images over and over and over again. So really bringing it back, turning it black and white, thinking it further away, and then playing it with really like funny music or things that can help.
Yeah. And that's the big thing to understand, is that you have experienced trauma and you have witnessed it. So even if the injury did not happen directly to you, your brain is learning as though it has. So doing these visualization practices helps retrain your brain, and it helps you to process your experience rather than ignoring it, pretending it, trivializing it, because these things aren't actually allowing you to properly deal with it so that you can move past it.
Yeah. Awesome. I
Oh
love
yeah.
it. Okay. How not to overthink and feel defeated and be confident in your practicing skills. First, I think that if you scroll back at the top of the Crash Course community page, I believe we did an entire Facebook Live on building confidence. But Finn, what do you got?
Oh, so hi, Danny. Thank you for the question. I know that we've been working on this in Crash Course in Transformation, actually, but this has a lot to do with what we were just talking about, training the brain. We have to train mentally as much, if not more, than training physically. Our brain learns through experiences, both real and imagined. So your mental training actually helps you grow physically. And for me, this is like my personal take on the concept of overthinking and the concept of defeatism and confidence in your practice, right? I sucked at Derby for a really long time. Okay. And I don't say that. I say, everyone who has heard me tell this story knows that I don't say this to put myself down or as an exaggeration. It is a simple fact. I was not a natural person in roller derby. I had to train really, really hard and put in a lot of work and get really okay with being bad. I also have ADHD. So I did a lot of thinking and a lot of strategizing and a lot of overthinking and a lot of over strategizing. And something that a captain told me years ago that really helped me was, you are a really good strategist and you're really clever, but your brain is 3 steps ahead of your body. And then I had a therapist talk to me about anchors and being neurodivergent and creating anchors for myself to anchor myself into the present moment. So when I'm working on something, the first step is going, it's okay if I fail. It's all right if I mess up. And I release that pressure for myself. I release the pressure valve. Number 2, anchoring. For me, it is a phrase that I'm using while I'm practicing. If I'm working on lateral movement, I go, get to the line, get to the line, get to the line. It's a positive and it's powerful. It is not a weak action statement. Like, get grammatical with it. Your verb needs to be powerful, not passive. Get to the line, not be at the line. Get to the line. And that helps me get out of my brain from thinking, well, what happens if I get to the line? What happens if I don't get to the line? What happens if I'm 2 seconds too slow? What happens if I don't turn my hips the right way? Any number of thoughts, any number of what ifs, right? I keep repeating, get to the line. It helps to anchor me into the process of getting to the line. So that's me. Chrissy, what do you got?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is number one is give yourself some time. Because I think we all want to be confident and perfect at skills right away. So a big piece of it is number one, understanding that repetition is the mother of skill. You have to do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And knowing that that's going to take you a little bit of time. The only reason why you feel defeated is because your pace of progression is not exceeding your expectation. So your expectation is the reason why you feel the way you feel, not your progress. So as soon as you can let go of expectations and allow the journey to be the journey, you're going to have a lot more fun. And then when you're having a lot more fun, you're going to stop overthinking it. And then
I have a note on this.
Did you just pull out a huge pile of papers? Yeah. I feel like you just pulled out like a...
Okay. Well, this is, kind of kudos to us and our ongoing development as leaders and trainers and professionals. But I did a training on this very recently. This was part of that Friday training, Chrissy.
Oh, cool.
So for mental practice and looking in what Chrissy was saying, right? What you're doing and how you're feeling as a result of where your measurement is, what your metric is. What is your metric for success? What is your metric for confidence? Are you measuring yourself based on ideal in the future? Or are you measuring yourself based on where you came from? So this is a concept called being in the gap versus being in the game.
Yeah, okay? Being in the gap. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So when you are in the gap, you are really looking at measuring yourself based on an ideal, based on the future, based on where you think you should be, right? And we're always going to come up short, guys. Like, that's the thing. Spoiler alert. If you are measuring based on where you want to be in the future versus where you are right now, you're always going to come up short because it's the future. And there's always going to be a point that you want to be at, to be better, to be faster, to be stronger, to have more money, to be more successful. There's always a point in the future that you haven't gotten to yet because it's in the future. Now imagine if you turn it around, looked at that skill that you're working on and go, cool, where was I 6 weeks ago? Where was I 3 months ago? Where was I a year ago? Was I even thinking about doing this skill a year ago? Look at where I am now based on that. How much better does that feel?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Like high performers, and actually this is a lot of what we talk about in, I'm writing a book on imposter syndrome for roller derby athletes, my friends, because we all know we need it. But this is a big piece of that, is understanding that, like, if you're a high performer and you want to be a high performer, you're always going to be leaning in. Like, there is no finish line. There's just the journey.
Yeah.
So Desiree asked us, I need to work on balance, but I'm losing hearing in my right ear. So my equilibrium is off a lot. What are the methods or exercises I could try to make it better? So the first thing I would say, Desiree, and this is something we try to be really clear with our athletes. I don't want to actually speak on this because I am not a medical professional. So I would say the best thing that you can do is go to a doctor. And Sin, you actually have some athletes on your team that work on stuff like this, and they go specifically to, like, is it like a...
Yeah, so I don't know if my teammates specifically are actively seeking out care and help for this, but something, Desiree, that you could keep in mind is that while we are not medical professionals and we cannot train your hearing loss and dealing with that, if you seek out a physical therapist that has a specialty in athletes with hearing loss, this is a thing, this exists. There are people that specifically work on this. And if you know what questions to ask, you can find the right professional for you. So physical therapy, working on specifically athletes with hearing loss, will get you that specific niche need to work with where your body is and what you need it to do. We as personal trainers can then work with what your physical therapist is doing, and then you can do specific training to help supplement that, to help grow from there. So it goes in tandem. Physical therapy and personal training go hand in hand together. And that's why we need all of these professionals in the world.
We need all the professionals.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so in for the sake of we love keeping our podcast short, we are going to continue this podcast in another episode of the Chrissy Krash podcast coming up next week. So be sure to tune in so that you can hear all of the rest of the questions that we got from our Facebook friends, and we will pick it up next week. Yes. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
But for those of you that are on live, we're actually going to record the rest of it right now.
Yeah.
So this is our movie magic. We're going to download this and we're going to cut it into 2 podcasts because we don't want everyone to get bored with a 30-minute podcast. So
yeah,
we're going to start it all over. So here we go. Are you ready? What's up, my friends? Chrissy Krash here. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissy Krash podcast. I am here with Original Sin. This is part 2 of answering all of your questions. Each month we will be coming together, joining forces to help answer all of your burning roller derby questions. So we're going to dive right into it here. First things first, we have Jessica who asks, how to get your league training / playing at a higher level while making sure everyone feels included and supported. What do you think, Sin?
Oh, so this is really interesting because I think it's very similar to something we did for our question on including new skaters and skater retention. Is number 1, having a clear plan. Having a clear training plan. And for Red Stick, we have an amazing head of training. Shout out to Little Miss Maggie, who's one of my best friends and one of my teammates. And she has developed a system where our training committee meets quarterly. I think it's quarterly. So if I'm wrong, y'all Red Stick people, correct me on that. But we come together and we make sure that we are all consistent and transparent and clear on our direction for the league and our plan on executing that. The names of our strategies, the skills we're going to be working on, the ways we do it. We just developed a 101 program that we just started the first session last night, where we all made different practices and shared them with the entire committee together to get really clear on how we were doing what we were doing. Now, this is important for training at a higher level because clear, transparent communication to the league helps your league buy into the vision. If you just tell them you want to get somewhere, but they don't know how to get there and only you know how to get there, they aren't going to be able to get there because they can't visualize it. And again, I know this is a soapbox for me, but I'm going to keep saying it over and over. Our brains learn through experience, both real and imagined. Our brains learn through mental training and physical training. So they need to understand the how just as much as you do. Share your plan. Do not gatekeep your plan.
Yep. I love that. It's so important. Like, all of your trainers are going to get better if your trainers share all their information. I feel like Jessica's second question also ties into this: ways to encourage everyone to participate in training. And I think that these 2 questions go together in the sense that it's important that you are training skaters to the level of roller derby they want to be trained at. Like, if you are trying to be like, we're going to go to playoffs, and like half the people in your league are like, I'm just excited to be here and do exercise. But then you're like, you got to cross train and you got to do this if we're going to be the best. And they're like, I'm just happy to be here. So it's important that as you encourage everyone to participate in training, that you know, what is everyone's individual goals? Are these skaters here to get better, or are they here to chill? Because if you can get the buy-in from everyone, if everyone is like, hey, we do want to play at a higher level, we're all in agreement of that. You know, Angel City, like when I was skating for Angel City, we went through this. We sat down, we had a goal setting session, and we said, are we all in agreement that we are going for championships this year? We said, are we going for that fucking Hydra? And everyone sat there and looked at each other and said, yes. And the agreement was, okay, if this is what we're going for, this is what's expected from everyone. This is what your training is going to look like. This is what practices are going to look like. This is what showing up looks like. And we all came in agreement to that. And so I think the biggest piece is not how do you encourage skaters to train, but it's figuring out who actually wants to play at a higher level and then helping them play towards that. Next question from Jessica. How long should a derby season be to stop burnout? I mean,
Don't
you
ask
should
that question.
yeah, Sin's like Jessica. There definitely needs to be a break. You know, when I first started playing for LA Derby Dolls, we actually didn't have time off for a while, and then we started having these hiatuses, and the hiatus was great because we had this full month off. And so I think at least 1 to 2 months off, somewhere between playoffs and the new year. You know, November to January is great, giving people a chance to just chill out. But also, it's important that skaters are knowing how to prevent burnout during the season. And I do believe that I am going to be doing a Facebook Live on this very soon inside of the Crash Course community. So if you're not already in there and you're listening to this podcast, it's KRASHCOURSE community. It's the name of the Facebook group. You can request to join. We will be doing a live on this. It may actually become a podcast at some time in the near future. Yeah. All right. Next one.
Podcast. Sorry. Speaking of podcasts, just when it comes to burnout, right, and the length of a season, there's scheduling things you have to keep in mind. There's where you are in the rankings and where you are in your competitive level. You know, are you making the drive to a playoffs tournament? Are you working on champs? Are you working on a regional tournament? So your time frame for scheduling has a lot to do with that and the way your league is going. Also geographically, what is your season like? You know, some people in a lot of colder areas of the world have a specific season, whereas us down south, it's always hot, it's whatever. So we have a little bit more, you know, wiggle room for that. It's important that skaters work on the balance between derby and life throughout, whether they're in the on season or the off season. And there's a really good Chrissy Krash podcast episode from a little bit last month called the 5 Key Tips to Derby Life Balance. So I know I've been playing for a really long time, so I have felt all of the extremes by this point. I know Chrissy has too. What works for me is finding shorter periods of time throughout my on season and my off season to reinvigorate my balance, to reestablish my boundaries, to make sure that I am in integrity with myself and what I'm doing with my path so that I don't actually ever make it to burnout. Because that's what we're here for. We don't want to get to burnout. We want to never get to burnout. And these are the ways to do it.
Yep, 100%. I love it. All right, Julie, Crash Course graduate, we love you, says, best ways to practice pack awareness. We'll start with that one. Best ways to practice pack awareness. I think the best way to practice pack awareness is to develop drills where you are forced to be thinking and doing at the same time. This starts right from the beginning of practice by doing a pace line where you are warming up, not just going through the pace line. You're warming up looking from side to side with your head. You're warming up saying things out loud. So if there's a skater weaving through a pace line, then you're going inside, outside, jammer coming up. You're literally warming up your eyes. You're warming up your head turn. You're warming up your communication. So pack awareness practice starts from the moment that you set foot at practice. Similarly, any kind of great drills where, for example, you can pay attention to, is there a jammer coming up at the back of the pack, right? And just focusing on that communication. I think pack awareness and communication are sort of the same thing because there's what you're aware of, but there's also what everyone's talking about, which helps with pack awareness. So any drills that involve effective communication, you know, jammers coming up, anything like that. What do you got?
I love that. Just to build on that, we can work backwards from our on the track scenario based derby skill or drills for pack awareness, being in the pack, working on that, switching up who's it playing jammer, switching up colors, anything that forces us to recognize differences and have to call and repeat and echo those things. All the way working backwards to off skate drills and warm up. Something that we started this season with the Red Stick All Stars is my co-captain. We always do off skate warm up when we do 3 different things. We do a cardio and stretching to get our heart rates up and our bodies moving. Then we do mental and physical engagement. And she has us stand in a double pace line. We are off skates, y'all. Some of us don't even have shoes on at this point. We are standing in a double pace line with two people in the very back, right? One of them is doing something and the other person is explaining what to do. And the rest of us are facing away from those two people and must follow those directions. So
Mhm.
we are listening. So the person speaking is communicating what their other person is doing physically. We are taking in that instruction and doing the thing without actually seeing that we're doing the thing.
That's
And we
awesome.
go through this so that everyone has a chance to do a thing and everyone has a chance to explain it. It really helps us train our minds and our bodies and our mental processing speed and skill.
Yep. Yeah, and it really is like the better that pack
Yeah.
communication is, the team communication is. Hi, Kitty. The better the team communication is, the easier that pack awareness is. Julie also asked, how do you purposely figure out what your place is in Derby when you're a newer skater? Meaning, do you get to start as whether you're really great, a blocker or a jammer? Well, I would say when you're first starting roller derby, you're everything. And as you're figuring out what your place is, I would ask yourself, where do you have the most fun?
Yeah.
Don't let someone tell you where you should go. Where do you enjoy being? Do you love speeding around the track and scoring points? Do you love being in a pack and a wall and putting your butt on stuff? Like, figure out where you have the most fun and lean in there.
Yeah. I'd agree because, and this is something that I think has changed over the years with Derby and leadership and how we train players. And I think maybe, circa 2012, 2013, you came in and the veterans usually clocked you, right? Like if you were a certain height, certain body type, you sort of ended up in the jammer pool or the blocker pool. But, you know, um, it's different in a lot of places and a lot of times now. I think when players start out, you are everything. There's no secret codex inside you calling you to the destiny of a blocker or a jammer. And even when you figure out what brings you the most joy, train the other jobs anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Do it all anyway, because say you want to be a blocker and that's what you love and that's what you want to do. Wonderful. Jam. Continue to jam because it'll make you a better blocker and vice versa with jamming.
Yep.
Just be a utility
100%.
player.
Be
This
a
is an
utility
age.
player.
This is an age of utility players.
It's very true. It's true because it's going to make you better. Every blocker is eventually going to get stuck behind a wall of blockers
Oh
at some
my
point. So you may as well be able to get out of it.
God. Absolutely.
Yep. Totally. So just take your time, figure out where you have the most fun, and train everything. All right. Devlin asks, I've been playing derby for years and I still can't side surf. I've followed the advice of several skaters, dancers, a personal trainer, but I've never managed to gain that skill. I'm hoping perhaps you can offer something that makes a difference. Devlin, so I would ask a couple of things. So if you've gotten advice from a lot of different people, and this is sort of I'm answering a question with a question,
Yeah.
have you actually put together a plan and followed it for a solid 90 days? Like if a skater or a dancer or a personal trainer has given you advice, have you taken that advice and executed it at least 3 to 5 days a week for a solid 90 days? Because a lot of times it has to do with hip flexibility. Hip flexibility is not something that comes overnight. It's something that you should actually be training every single day. I just did a live inside the Crash Course community page on hip flexibility and which movements you should be doing. So I would say go take those moves, go do them for 90 days, and then tell me if your side surfing gets better. Sin, you want to take the next one?
Yes. Let's see. This next one is from Lisa. We're trying to rebuild our league after the COVID break caused a major departure of skaters. Dude, I feel you. We have a fairly solid BC team with basic skills, struggling with training strategy. Any suggestions or good resources? Yeah, absolutely. So there are Facebook communities out there. There are social media communities. I know there's communities on Reddit as well, maybe also Discord. The two groups that I see a lot of are on Facebook, and it's specifically roller derby skills and drills. And then the other one is roller derby coaches and trainers. And if you guys want, I think they're public communities. We can probably post the links to them in the community group. But it's just great to get those resources, get a lot of other perspectives, and know that you're not alone. COVID wrecked us all. And I think it's great that the community can band together and we can support each other. I've seen a lot of leagues coming together to collaborate with each other, a little bit of merging happening to beef up rosters and numbers. Um, let's just continue to support each other and offer those different perspectives on what's working for us.
Yeah, love it. Great question. All right, Vero asked how to develop mental toughness in newish skaters. I think this one comes back to having fun.
Circle.
Mental toughness comes back to having fun, having a good time, not being afraid to fail. And again, the not being afraid to fail part can really be handled by encouraging people to fail, celebrating when people fall, laughing together and high-fiving when someone really goes for it and just eats shit. Because this is really the thing that the letting go of the attachment to doing it right is how people become mentally tough. Also, helping them understand things that they can say. What are they saying in their head when it gets tough? Helping them reprogram their own internal dialogue. We do this inside of Crash Course and Transformation for like the entire first 12 weeks. We're like, all right, what do you say? And for the year after that, Thrive. We're like, what are you saying to yourself? Whose voice is that? Who's driving the bus? Like, do you want that person driving the bus? So a lot of it is that it's going to be helping them shift internal dialogue and just making sure that they're having fun and not attached to perfectionism.
Yeah. That was it. Said in a nutshell. I think we came full circle with that one.
Yep. So. All right. Joanne, who for our KCIT, we love our KCIT crew. Thank you for asking. She says how to get/do crossovers, turnaround toe stops at speed, etc.
Oh, okay. So this is both going to be complicated and easy at the same time. Complicated because it's going to take time. Again, I think we come full circle with this because we talked about this kind of in both of these Q&A sessions that we've done. This doesn't happen overnight. Speed comes with repetition, with muscle memory. You build muscle memory on the skill by doing reps and reps and reps and reps of the thing. So you need off-skate training to build your muscle conditioning, your muscle endurance, and your capacity for doing the skill. Mm-hmm. You also need to do this slower on both sides, crossovers, crossovers, turnaround toe stops. Do it all slow, exaggerated, over and over and over and over again. And then make that conscious decision to speed up a little bit and then a little bit.
And also, I think a big piece of this is your shoulders. If you're doing crossovers or turnaround toe stops, your shoulders have to go before your hips. And Joanne, as a current KCIT member, quick reminder, you do have the opportunity to be doing footage reviews. So send us some video, please, of you doing crossovers and turnaround toe stops, and we will look at it. We will tell you what you were doing wrong. Yep. All right. Final question. Teresa says, advice for playing your first game and getting over mental blocks and nerves. Have fun. Once the first whistle blows, it'll feel just like practice. Just remember that you can use your brain for evil or for good, meaning you can use your imagination to imagine you fucking it up, or you can use your imagination to imagine you absolutely crushing it. Either way, the game is going to go how the game is going to go. But the weeks leading up to the game, your experience of the game is happening in your brain. And so you can choose to have a great experience or a crappy one. So really focusing on imagining what's it going to be like when you win all these points. This is actually great because you guys, I am playing in a tournament, my first tournament in like 7 years. We have 6 games next week in Colombia. And I've been kind of stressing about it. Like my ankle hurts a little bit. I'm worried about the 88,500 foot altitude. And I've been kind of getting in my head. So as I'm like saying this, right, you get more by giving, right? As I'm saying this, I'm like, oh my God, I should just be like mentally rehearsing that like we're going to absolutely crush it. I'm going to feel great. Like it's going to be awesome. We're going to, you know what I mean? All of these things instead of worrying about my ankle and the altitude. So Teresa, I'm talking to you as much as I'm talking to myself is mentally play out absolutely crushing it and understand that the second the first whistle blows, it's going to be just like practice.
Yep.
So thank you guys for joining us. We hope that this was super helpful. Thank you for everyone who submitted questions. We are so excited to continue to do this. So keep your eye out. Each month we will put out just a Facebook post on my page as well as in the Crash Course community page asking you for your burning questions or things that you need support with. If this podcast had some good nuggets that you want to share with a teammate or with the roller derby community, please screenshot it, share a link, tag us in your Facebook posts. Let us know what you got the most out of it. Throw it up on your Instagram story and tag us in it because life is a contact sport. And those who touch the most lives win. So let's go out there and make the whole sport better. We'll see you guys.
Yes.
Bye.